Today's episode of the Just Keep Swimming podcast is brought to you by Audible. Audible is an online audiobook and podcast service offering over 10,000 books and the ability to listen to your favorite podcasts, including the Just Keep Swimming podcast. I personally use Audible all the time and suggest you take a listen to Intentional Living by John C. Maxwell. In this book, Mr. Maxwell shares a story on how he was able to live a noble and purposeful life and gives you tips and tricks so you can do the same. So please start your 30-day free trial now at www.audibletrial.com/JKS podcast, all lowercase. Again, that is www.audibletrial.com/JKS podcast. And if you have any more questions or concerns for the Just Keep Swimming podcast, you're always welcome to reach out to us on Facebook or on Instagram at justkeepswimming_podcast, or you can email us at jkspodcast702@gmail.com. And with that out the way, let's dive into it. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Just Keep Swimming podcast. This is your friend, your boy, your host, Mr. Adrian Jackson, and we're back at it again with another great episode for you. And y'all know who's with me. It's the man, the myth, the legend. It's Mr. 1-3, diving deep in the books right now, so let's continue to root him on as he goes and get this degree. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I have a short message I want to share with you guys, and I'm going to call it Read It Out Loud. So the other day I was watching this video on YouTube or IG or something, I can't remember what it was on, but pretty much it was this lady at this town hall meeting, and while she was at the meeting, she was reading something very passionately. She was like, ever since this place was shut down and reopened, there's only been 5 permanent employees, 2 are Asian, 2 are Indian, and 1 is Nigerian. Sorry, I'm nervous. And then she just froze and stopped talking. And when I listened to that one, I was like, okay, lady, you about to be real racist for a second. It sounds real racist. But then 2, as I looked at her, as I watched the video and looked at her, it was like, you can tell that she may have wrote this information down and didn't actually read it out loud to see what she wrote, or somebody else wrote it for her. Like, could have been her husband that wrote the speech, and she was like, I'll do the speech for you, or whatever the case was. You can tell that she didn't review it beforehand. She didn't read it out loud to see, 1, if it makes sense, and 2, how it was going to come off. Because when she presented it, it came off really hostile, really racist, and everybody in the crowd was just kind of shocked. And you can kind of tell she was shocked by what she wrote down or what she was presenting. And she looked like she didn't know what she was presenting anymore. And I'm sitting here looking at her like, how are you up there giving a speech if you don't know what type of speech you're giving? But it started just made me think more, and I'm like, you know what? I've done this plenty of times. You guys know I host trivia all the time, and there's been multiple times when I host trivia and I will read a question in my head, and when I read it in my head, it just doesn't make sense. It's just like, it just doesn't flow for some reason. But then the second I stop and read it out loud, it all clicks, and I'm like, okay, this is good grammar and a good sentence format. I just wasn't reading properly in my head for some odd reason, and that's why now what I do is, before I go to the trivia, I'll always read the game first so I can know what I'm about to present, what words are coming up, so I can be prepared for some of the harder words, some of the harder names, because a lot of foreign words and stuff I struggle over. But it's really needed to read your information first and review the information you're about to go over, because when it's time to present it to people, that can be really embarrassing when you go in there and you're like, it didn't sound like this when I read it in my head, but now that I'm reading out loud, I sound mean, I sound rude, I sound racist, I sound disrespectful. I'm not getting the message that I wanted to truly get across right now, because I didn't prepare for this message properly, So that right there takes me back to a lot of the tips that we used to learn in college. Definitely for presentations, the first tip they always tell us is create the presentation presentation or what you're about to present, and then sit it down and come back to it some hours later, a day later or so, depending on how much time you have, of course, but come back and review it later and read it again so you can actually see what you put down. Because a lot of times when we're creating something or we're presenting something or getting ready to present something, we're so stuck in the main message that we want to get across, but we don't realize everything that needs to be aligned perfectly to get this message across, and that's how I felt like watching that video. Like, you can tell, like, this lady, she wanted to get this message across, whatever it is. I'm sure she was passionate about it, but then when she started reading, you starting to realize she was like, oh, this sounds wrong, I sound bad, I don't sound correct in this, and I'm not getting the message across. Now I'm coming off just as a irritated racist person than a concerned citizen of the community. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that you want to practice. Review your information. And then tip 2 is go over it with yourself out loud, definitely in a mirror if you can. That's something that my communications professors always pushed, even my business professors. Like, if you're gonna have a presentation, go in front of the mirror and read it out loud in the mirror to yourself. One, it's going to help you build some confidence, not be afraid to speak to people. But 2, you're going to be able to see how you talk, how you're presenting, how you're looking, how you're coming off. You're going to be able to hear your voice a little better to understand how the message is being delivered, and understand if you're actually doing a good job to deliver the message the way you want it to be delivered, or if it's going to come off sloppy and unprepared, And that's something that you probably haven't really realized by a lot of presenters, but a lot of presenters do. They prepare big time. Like, before their presentation, I'm sure they go over it 4 or 5 times. They run over it, they practice, they edit it, they make sure that it's going to flow the way it's going to flow. And they take the time really to speak out loud what they're going to talk about before they start talking about it. Like, for those who've been looking for the podcast a lot, you guys hear me do that a lot often. Like, I'll ask a question will come to my mind that I wasn't prepared for, or I wasn't thinking about asking, and something is just like, just ask the question and see what happens. And then when I ask the question, it doesn't come out as smooth as I thought it was going to be. Or if I have a statement and I just throw it out there without truly thinking about it, it takes a while for me to juggle around to make it presentable in the way I want to present it. In my mind, it's there already. I can understand it, I can hear it, I can feel it. But once it starts to come out my mouth, it's like, is this coming out properly? Are they understanding what I'm saying? Is this even really making sense? Because it made sense in my mind, but as it starts to flow off my tongue, it's not making sense no more. So am I really going to get this message across? I probably should have paused for a second before I brought this up, So, that's some good tips. And then one other tip I have also is find you a trusted friend, a confidant that you can share your message with before you share it to the world. Like, a lot of times that's why I like going to my counselor, because I get the opportunity to share thoughts that I really don't share with the world. And when I actually get the opportunity to speak them out in person, I literally ask her, do I sound crazy, or do I sound weird, or does that not sound whatever? And, she would say, yeah, it may come off a little harsh, but at the same time, it makes sense because this is how you feel at this time, in this moment, and things like that. And it's always good to get that second opinion from other people, definitely before you have a big presentation, a big project, or anything that you have to share with the world. Like, a lot of times I like reading my trivia questions when Jessica is here, because I'll start to stutter over a word and I'll show it to her and she'll help me pronounce it correctly. Or also I'll have my phone in my hand, and if there's a word that pops up that I don't know how to pronounce correctly, I'll Google it. I'll Google it real quick and type in pronunciation so I can pronounce it correctly, and just do what I have to do to get prepared, so when I am out in the public face and I'm doing this game, it can just sound so much smoother. And last night was an example of me reading the questions but not understanding the question until I got into the game. So I was reading this question at home last night, and every time I read it, I'm like, it's not flowing. Like, is this an error or something? And at some point, after reading like 4 times, I kind of just threw it up in the air. I was like, you know what? They must have made an error with their grammar or something like that. But then when I actually got into the game, got to the question, put it on the PowerPoint and read it out loud in the microphone with my presenter voice, it made sense. And I was like, oh, that's how it's supposed to be read. So the first time I read it with like the confusion feeling, but after I read it out loud on the microphone, I heard myself over the speakers, I was like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be read. And then the second time I read it the smooth, perfect way that it's supposed to be read, But it's like, if I didn't stop to actually listen to myself and hear myself and, know my weaknesses when it comes to trivia and presentations and stuff like that, I would have just embarrassed myself and kept pushing like course, like always, But it's like, you have to really stop and just take that moment to review your stuff, read it out loud to yourself, get a second opinion to make sure that when you go up there to present it, it makes sense and it works out for you, So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that resonated with you guys today. I'm sure a lot of people have been in this type of situation before. I know I'm one in all different types of way and manners where it's like, when I say it in my head, it sounds good, but then once I speak it out loud, it's like, ugh, that sounds sloppy, that sounds ugly, that's not smooth, you're not getting the message across the way you want to, and that's something that I'm still personally working on. I'm getting better at it every single day, and I'm going to keep pushing myself to get better. But hope that resonated with you guys today. Thank you guys all so much for your continuous support on the podcast. We truly appreciate you guys always in every way, shape, and form. Just for even pressing play and listen to this, even if it's just a part of the message, we appreciate you guys. But we hope you guys have a great day, a marvelous afternoon, a splendid evening. Time to start getting ready for school. That time is around the corner, so go ahead and get that stuff ready and have an amazing day, wonderful evening, and a blissful afternoon. And remember to just keep swimming.